London parks. My sister and I went last April 15th to the 29th. We were interested basically in gardens, and of course, you're in London, so a few art galleries. Our accommodations were in the West End, so we were on the Piccadilly line, so that's just directly from Heathrow, and it was a 15-minute bus ride to Kew Gardens. So Kew Gardens was one of our main focuses. We went there twice, actually. That was one of our first ones. So this would have been around April 17th or something. We went to the Palm Garden. And the thing that is so fascinating with Kew is the attention that's paid to the tree line. And you can see the different colors, the different types of foliage that's used, the shapes of the trees. They're very, very particular about that kind of placement. So this is a map of Kew Gardens for anybody who hasn't gone. You enter here. We walked around here, the rock garden, which is really quite large. And then there's a camellia walk here. We walked over here, the pagoda, the temperate garden, the houses. We decided we'd wait for our second visit there to see it. And then we decided to take the train. The gardens are 330 acres. So we took the little train just to orient ourselves. And then when we went back, we actually visited more locations. We pretty well saw the entire garden. So that's a view of the palm garden there. And you can see over here just that kind of interesting vegetation that they use everywhere. In the Palm House, few of the more exotic kind of flowers. It was quite cold actually when we were there. Um, we're both from Manitoba. We should be used to cold, but the forecast had been for like 18 above, and actually it was more like 10 or 12. So we didn't have the proper clothing for that. Uh, One that the Princess Diana Conservatory was actually a real treasure. And you can see our old friends here, the pitcher plants. They had quite a collection of those and all sorts of sedum everywhere. So the different kinds of pitcher plants. This I'm not sure if it's just like we have some of those also in Parsborough, but I don't know if that's just the way they grow normally or not. Um, then more of the no, then the Alpine Garden. Actually, no, this is in the Princess Diana Conservatory. This is called rose grape, quite a lovely exotic sort of plant. And then the Alpine House had more sedums and those plants, and you can see some of the rock garden. It's quite vast. If you consider, say, the Truro Rock Garden would fit about 12 times in there. This is also part of the rock garden here, where you can see they've got waterfalls and ponds. And something that I want to mention here in terms of tree conservation and knowledge about trees now, this is the Turner oak. So some of you might remember in 1987, the great storm that hit London and actually devastated a lot of the trees. They had a lot of tree loss. The Turner oak was one of the ones, and actually, I thought Turner was named after the painter Joseph William Mallard Turner, but it's another Turner. And that huge tree fell over, and there were two discoveries. Is the thinking beforehand had been that tree roots were a lot deeper. And actually, you can see they're not. And we know that from certainly the trees that grow around here. They're very shallow rooted. And the tree fell over, they righted it, and this is it in its condition now. And to their surprise, it actually flourished. And they discovered that the ground had been so compacted beneath the tree before from people walking up to it that it was suffering from that. And when they loosened it up and replanted it with, as you can see, the tree line is a lot larger here. The mulching goes all the way to the drip line. So now they do that. They every year or so, they make sure the trees aren't compacted underneath, so for better growth. So our next stop was the Wetlands Center. It's 1,000 acres, opened in 2000. London has a population close to 9 million people. It's a big it's a big metropolis. It's a huge city, and yet this is what's astonishing to me. Um, they devote 100 acres to waterfowl. You can see here the goose here on the left, on the right is a nene, which is the Hawaiian goose. Any of you who engage in wordplay with crosswords or any of that, Scrabble will find that. I was just fascinated to finally get a glimpse of it. So this is a map of the area where we were visiting the gardens. This is the wetlands right in here. So Hammersmith is a very busy tube station. We were living, I'm going to say, right here in this little square, and we just took the tube there. We walked the bridge across because that bridge is under construction at Hammersmith, and then walked to the wetlands. And you can see it's surrounded by buildings. I mean, but the other thing that I'd like to point out is look at the green spaces that they have here. All of these green spaces, Gunsbury Park, this is Kew Gardens right here. So for us, it was a 15-minute bus ride to get to Kew over here. And then it was a little longer to get to Richmond Park, which is this here, which is, I think, closer to 2,000 acres. But if you look at all these green spaces, everywhere, everywhere, I mean, every little community would have a park. And that is something that I really, really miss not seeing in Halifax, where it seems to me there's like a kill the trees program underway. So as I said, we were living here, and we decided to just walk to Gunsbury Park because it's so close to where we were. It was just maybe a kilometer or so. Anyway, so that's the wetlands area right there, and that's just more of the wetlands. It's a charming, absolutely charming place to go, just to get away from the hustle and bustle. There were school tours that were there, of course, lots of kids. They have a couple of Asian otters. They have, herons, a lot of birds, a lot of birds. And I think we recognize here the snakesroot, the heel-all, and the cowslip. So yeah, they have water. This is not working so well. Yeah, this beautiful little frog just sitting there in the river. And so that's more of the wetlands. You can see there are buildings there in the distance, but you could picture yourself definitely in the countryside, completely away from the cement and mortar that surround you. So this is Richmond Park. We arrived here, and our destination was here, the Isabella Plantation. That we were there at the time when the azaleas were in full bloom, and it's a well-known tourist attraction at this time of year, late April. That park has 2,000 acres? No. Richmond Park. Well, yeah, no, Richmond Park, yeah, has 2,000 acres. And it's a wildlife conservation area. And you can see they have fallow deer here, a little small herd that we saw, some little bluebells. And the azaleas and the settings are just absolutely magnificent throughout. This plant here, this is Chilean rhubarb. It grows to be about 4 feet tall and has spines on it. It's used as a decorative plant. Marsh marigolds over here. And then, just marvelously, the different kinds of colors of the leaves, everything is so considered that way. And yet just, it doesn't feel forced or contrived in any way at all. Very natural, just very enjoyable. Our next stop was in Chelsea, the Physic Garden. And that garden is actually very, very old. It's not a very big garden. It was begun in the 15th century. And again, it's, smack in the middle of buildings surrounding it. You can see here. What's interesting, has this high fence all the way around. So it really is a different climate entirely. They have shrubs and trees growing here that wouldn't grow anywhere else in London because this is such a protected area. So we did luck in on a tour when we arrived there. Yeah, it's 3.4 acres. And that is a conch shell that Captain James Cook donated to the garden when he came back from one of his world travels. So it was begun in 1675 by the Worshipful Society of Apothecaries. So there's a large medical area. A lot of the plants and the herbs that were planted for use, now a little less so. Afterwards, we went to Gunsbury from our accommodations, and a couple of things have struck me while I was in London is how when they cut down a tree or a tree has to be cut down or it falls or whatever, they limit and they take away the leaves and the branches, and they simply leave the tree trunks there to rot. So this is in behind a church that wasn't far from where we were staying, and this is in Gunsbury Park. And you can see, I mean, this is, April 24th or whatever, and they're not mowing. A lot of the boulevards also weren't mowed throughout the area that we were in, Ealing. And when we went to the Tower of London, the moat now has been converted to a wildflower area. So they're using horses to maintain that whole, that's a lot of moat area. So people can go and walk through this, beautiful wildflower garden in the summer, not in April, not in late April. So this is Gunsbury. It's an old estate, and this was opened by Neville Chamberlain in 1926, but it's a 15th century estate that's gone through renovations and has been restored. In July 2024, actually, they had two pigs that were left to roam and just root out a lot of the vegetation that was unwanted. So that's something that another older practice that's being put in use to maintain these grounds. So I was saying kids, school groups are there. It was just fascinating to see these kids run up this hill and then tumble down, which I just don't think that would happen in Canada too much. But they were so gleeful running up there and rolling down the hill. So just some of the architecture in Gunsbury Park. And then we're back at Kew Gardens, and again, just watch this beautiful tree line. Just there's a canopy walk if you want to see it from above, and I mean the fox just sleeping there in the rhododendron area, and you can see some of the size of some of these trees. And the other thing that's interesting in Kew Gardens is they have labeled certain trees champion trees because they're the oldest or the biggest or the rarest or whatever. So it's just drawing a different kind of attention to some of the flora that's there. This is now Kyoto Gardens. This is in the Notting Hill area, and it's just gorgeous, beautiful place. It also has a tulip area. It's quite large, but I think my time is up. So after all that gardening, you have a cup of coffee. That's it for me.